Well, welcome back. This is episode 2 of the podcast. Today, I've been told to talk about my real estate story. So, my real estate story is interesting. What I think I'm going to do is I'm going to break it up into a couple different times that I talk. We're talking about 10 years of real estate. I've been at 5 different brokerages, some by choice, some by necessity. So I guess the best way to start it is my real estate journey, my real estate career, whatever you want to call it, probably started when I think I was 16, maybe I was 17. There was an investment seminar I made my dad take me to up in Buffalo, New York. And it was basically one of those you don't have to use money to get into real estate, kind of like one of those get rich quick things. But I had my dad bought me the books. I read everything probably within a week. And that summer I started trying to put deals together. So this is the summer between, I think, my senior year of high school and my freshman year of college. I'm just calling random people, looking in the newspaper for sale by owners, trying to get these properties into an assignable contract. I mean, mind you, I'm 17, 18 years old. Honestly, way over my head. This is where they say this is the kind of stuff you do when you don't have the money to get into real estate and you want to start investing. It's not easy, but it can be done. It's just extremely difficult. It's just hard. It's hard. No, not really a better way to explain it than you're cold calling, hoping somebody answers the phone and says, "Yeah, I'll sell you my property," and then you have to go find an end buyer for it. A lot of the times you're buying these properties sight unseen. Sometimes you do get to see them. But a lot of them are sight unseen, and then you have to try and find somebody that's going to buy it, and then you take your portion out in the middle. So it can be done. It's difficult. Everything's a lot easier when you have money. So I would say if you're going to try to do something like this, either just really, really know what you're doing, do a lot of research on it, or just find somebody to fund you and do it that way, because it's going to be easier, less headaches, and less troubles. So that's basically where it started, was that summer, just putting stuff together. I probably didn't really touch anything real estate related for the next 5 or 6 years. So at this point I'm 25 years old. My wife and I got fired from our job. We moved to Erie, Pennsylvania from Toledo, Ohio. And that's when I bought my first house. So it was 2010, February 2010. So you're talking well over 12 years, just over 12 years ago. I still own that house. I actually have that on a wraparound mortgage. Well, it was a wraparound mortgage. Now it's basically an owner finance deal. I paid the house off recently, but I needed this back when we moved to Columbus. I needed to do something with it. We were renting it for a while. It was 3.5, 4 hours away. So finally found an investor to give me a certain percent down, and then I hold a mortgage for 30 years. And I can get more into that at some point. But buying the house and then figuring out this deal for the owner financing was probably the first deal that I put together. Wasn't really necessary an investment then. It was just to kind of get us out of a pickle. It was just hard driving up to Erie from Columbus, Ohio every now and then to check on renters. We just had some really bad experience with renters, with some contractors that we hired up there. It was really just a big weight around my neck. So got that taken care of, and now the house is paid off. We collect $609.17 a month on it. I'm not on the hook for any repairs. I'm not on the hook for anything. I just collect a check. It's just basically your epitome of mailbox money. It's not a rental per se. It's just an owner finance deal that I have terms with the buyer who's going to buy it. I'm basically I always get these confused, mortgagee. I don't know. I'm the bank basically, and they technically borrowed money from me, and they pay me every single month on a 30-year note. So it's a nice little setup for us. Fast forward a couple years later, we're in Columbus. I'm working. Started looking at houses. We moved down here in September of 2010, and I remember the apartment that I picked out for us to live in. I came down here, I did all this myself. My wife trusted me to move us to Columbus. My thought was there was going to be a lot more opportunity here. It's a growing city. Luckily, I was right, because if not, that could have been really bad. But so we bought our house in February 2010. I walked out of my job that I was working in Erie, June, on my mom's birthday that year. I sold tickets. Basically was like an online scalper before StubHub and all that stuff came available. You could do it through PayPal and stuff like that. So sold tickets, made about $3,000 a month for 3 months while I wasn't working. As I was looking for jobs in Columbus, was doing this. We got married in July 31st of 2010, and then we moved down to Columbus in September, I think. I remember walking into this apartment, showing my wife, and I felt terrible because she just started crying because it was wasn't in the best part of town, right off of 161 over by Bush Boulevard. If you're from Columbus, you know what I'm talking about. Not the best part of town. Definitely different than where we were coming from in Erie. But this is what we had to do to get here. So we moved down here. I was managing rent-to-own store. My wife was working, I think at Route 21 at the point. At that point, we were barely making ends meet. But we started looking for investment properties. I found some, I think on Zillow, right around the corner from our apartment. We went and looked at it. We got that in contract, and then we also, at the same time, bought our first house down here in Canal Winchester. And I remember we worked for those 4 months to save the money for the down payment for the house and so that we could buy this other house. So the first investment house we bought was on Minnesota Avenue in Linden. $5,500 is all it cost. This was right after the crash, 2010. So we're a year or two after the crash, all the foreclosures, all that kind of stuff. You could get stuff for dirt cheap. We bought that. We bought our house, and then we bought that a week later. I remember after we bought the first investment, and we joked that we should have, even back then, we wanted to keep our bank account, because I think we were down to it was like $3.89 in our bank account after we closed on our house that we were going to live in, and we closed on this investment property. Fast forward 10 years later, it looks to be a pretty good idea to do that kind of stuff, but hindsight's always 20/20. It could have also went really, really bad. So we bought that. I contracted somebody to work with me on it, nights and weekends. So I was in there. I was pulling out plaster and lath. I was pulling out the plumbing, pulling out the wiring. Basically pulled it down to studs and then put everything back with this contractor. So that's kind of where I got the knowledge. I had some knowledge from working at ServPro before on what stuff was, but this was kind of my full, here's what you need to look for in a house. Here's how it goes back. Here's how it comes off. And I worked with him, I think it was like 3 or 4 months, every single night he could get down here. And then on the weekends when we had a day off, we would be in there from sun up to sundown. It was not easy. It was not necessarily fun, but it was a huge learning experience. Started doing that. We bought 3 more houses. I actually bought it with one of my really good friends from high school. About 6 months later, we decided to liquidate everything. Actually, him and his brother, I believe, is how it went down. They bought those 4 properties. My wife and I were having our first kid, so didn't necessarily have the time for that. But my dad realized how much I really liked real estate, and he called me. I don't even remember how the conversation went, quite honestly. I just remember he said, if you really like real estate, maybe you should be doing it full time. So that's great. That's a great idea, but I can't afford to take the classes. So this is where, if you followed me on social media or anything like that, we've talked about it was a $1,600 investment that my dad made in me, and now we're where we're at. He gave me the $1,600. I went and did my classes in, it was like June of 2011 or 2012. And by September of 2012, I was licensed. I joined Howard Hanna right after I got licensed. Howard Hanna was new to the Columbus market. They had just bought a Remax office down in Pickerington. That's the first place I went because between college years, my sophomore, I think, year, summer, and then my junior year in summer, I went back up to Erie where my parents were living. My mom did the books for Howard Hanna real estate brokerage up there. So Howard Hanna was just familiar with me, familiar to me. So that's where I went first. Quite honestly, I did not do very well starting out. I think September, I can't remember the exact date I was licensed, but I know it was September of 2012. I didn't do my first deal until January of 13. And quite honestly, I got taken advantage of. A realtor in the office sent me a referral that they got because they didn't have the ability to do anything with it at the time. And the realtor that I worked with on that with the referral, not knowing anything, took a big chunk of the commission, even though I did all the work down here. She helped. Don't get me wrong. She definitely helped. But to take half the commission, she didn't. I was showing the houses. I was there for the home inspection, like all that kind of stuff. People don't realize how much time actually goes into in the back end of being a realtor. So I got this commission check January of 2013. It was a $200,000 house, so the commission check was $6,000. After I had to split 50-50 with the referring realtor, and then pay my portion to the brokerage, I think I made about $1,800. Quite honestly, it was probably one of the biggest checks I ever got. But I looked back at it at that point and thought about all the work I did, and about a week later I put my license up in escrow because I didn't think this was going to work out for me. Mind you, I got my real estate license mainly just so I could invest. I didn't get it for the retail side. I got it so I could invest. So when I saw how much work it took to sell a house, the first house I ever sold, and what I was getting paid for that, I made the decision there to just be done with it and just figure out something else. I didn't really give it a fair shake. I didn't put into it what I should have put into it. But, I even probably back then had the thought where this is an easy gig. You just have to kind of put a sign in the yard, talk to a couple people, and you'll make a ton of money. 10 years later, can tell you that's not how it is. You can see if you can see me right now, you can see all the bags under my eyes and all that kind of stuff. I got grays already. Well, I'm a redhead, so whites. You don't get gray hair when you're a redhead. You go straight to white. But luckily, I think it was like April or May of that year, I had a cold call from a broker who, just like me right now, was just starting her new brokerage out in Pickerington. She cold called me. She talked me into pulling out my license, and quite honestly, I can tell you, once she talked me into doing that, I decided to put the work into it. At that point, we owned a fitness center in Pickerington, so we were running that. That was a new business. I was at the casino. I was doing table game dealers, so I dealt high limit blackjack and roulette at Hollywood Casino that had just opened. I actually opened one of the tables for the very first time when we opened, so it's kind of cool to say. But we're doing those two things, and then I stayed real estate. So it was either this was going to be the time that I put the work into it and did it, or this was just going to be, we're going to give it to the end of the year. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. We'll just put the license away and not pay for it. Luckily, by July of that year, I quit the casino. I went full time, and you could really say from there the rest is history. July of 2013, I officially went full-time in real estate because I had a very, very good month of sales. And the only difference was I was putting the work in. I had started buying some leads. I started calling these leads. I started following up on these leads. I started making sure I knew the markets that I was trying to sell in. So I'd go preview houses. This is back when there was 8,000 houses on the market. Houses didn't go in a day or two like they've been going recently. So you could go preview, you could go look through, you could take 12 buyers out on the weekend and probably get 8 of them in contract if you really hustled and knew how to write a contract and knew how to work with people. So as a buyer's agent, it was an extremely fun and easy time, quite honestly, because there was just so many things, so many houses on the market. It was a buyer's market for sure. Fast forward to December that same year, the broker had switched over to a RE/MAX office, so we were RE/MAX Energy down in Pickerington. They did that in the summer at some point. We were in Dominican for a vacation, and the office person texted me and said, RE/MAX Energy doesn't exist anymore. I said, what are you talking about? I had my license hung at RE/MAX, and with it no longer being available, I had to go find somewhere else. Apparently there was some issue at a Christmas party. I don't know exactly what happened. I never cared to really find out what happened. I'm one of those people. This is hard for me. I generally just keep my head down and do my stuff. So to be opening up and letting people in to see everything that goes on in my life and talking this candid about everything is difficult, because like I said, when that all happened, I didn't really, it was what it was. I wasn't changing anything, so I didn't care to find the details. I just went out and found a different broker. So in December, after we get back from Dominican right before Christmas, I have to start interviewing brokers. So I interviewed a couple of RE/MAXes, Keller Williams, I think Coldwell Bankers, a bunch of different places, and settled on RE/MAX Connection. I remember sitting with Zach and Larry, who were the brokers then, still really good friends, still mentors of mine, telling them that I was going to sell $5 million of real estate that year, which as a new agent who just had some success and now is getting upsetting the apple cart, having to switch brokers again out of necessity, I can only imagine that they thought I was crazy. I've asked Zach and Larry about it since. Now we've known each other since 2013, so we're talking 10 years. They believed me the entire time. They thought I could do it. So 2014 is where I'll end this, and then I'll pick up some other time from 2014 and go from there. But 2014 was my first true year in real estate, full time, really focusing on it. And in that year, I sold by myself with no help. Obviously, my wife supported me, and there's stuff like that, but I'm talking assistant team, anything. I sold 56 houses for $6.25 million, which the volume is not real high, but you have to think this is back in 2013, 2014, when houses were starting to appreciate again after the big crash. But my average sale was just over $100,000. I know a lot of people, a lot of realtors, whether you're new or old, you sneeze at these $100,000 houses because it's just $100,000. But I looked at it as, one, all that money you make spends the same, whether it's $1 million house or a $100,000 house. But the one thing I don't think a lot of people understand is those $100,000 buyers one day will become a $200,000 buyer, a $300,000 buyer. They're going to sell and they're going to buy. So that was the foundation of my real estate career, is helping 56 buyers, generally buyers, I think was that first year, maybe 3 or 4 sellers, but 56 buyers. That's that foundation of where we sit right now. A lot of those buyers have come back to me to sell and to buy again. A lot of them are huge fans. This is back when my 2 girls were this big. They were babies. They were 1-2 years old. My wife was still working, so my girls would have to come with me to show houses. So a lot of these first batch of clients have seen my daughters and even my son to a point from when they were babies, and now these guys are 10, 9, and about to be 8 years old. So I can get more into depth on that 2014 year on the next one, but that basically takes you from my first seminar up to my first true full year in real estate, where I did 56 deals for $6.25 million. So hopefully you like some of the content that I've given you today. Hopefully you'll be interested in hearing more about everything. But I'm going to wrap this up because I got to get going. But I will hopefully hear and see you next time. Thank you.
The Kris Shannon Podcast is available on all major streaming services. Please like, share, and leave us a review. See you next time.